Do you have a parent that is struggling to implement strategies outside of coaching sessions? What about a client who is mastering skills and making so much progress within the clinic, but once they walk out those doors, it's as if they forgot everything from the day? Or maybe you can relate to the parents in these stories, being exhausted, stressed from the day-to-day requirements. Work, chores, children repeat. The laundry piles up. The dishes are never done. Kids need baths. And don't forget to remind your husband to take out the trash. These are the parents that walk into parent coaching sessions and hear all about their child's growth, but they don't feel the progress. These parents, they do their best to replicate our systems. They bring out the same toys, present the same picture icons, anything to promote the skills they are promised their child learned, but their hopes begin to disappear. This isn't just frustrating for parents. It is a reminder for all of us that despite meeting the mastery criteria in our treatment plans, we aren't meeting the real goal. If this resonates with you, you're not alone. Generalization is where even the best laid plans go to die, unless we change this. Through all the research, there's one connection that points back to the key of generalization, and that is parent training. What if we could empower parents to become true partners in their child's progress? What if we can transform their homes into an extension of the therapy room? Imagine a world where everyday routines, meals, bath time, play, become opportunities for learning and growth. By guiding parents to integrate skills into their existing routines and establish new beneficial habits, we can help them overcome these obstacles and ensure that their learned skills not only generalize, but soar. This course will equip you with the knowledge and tools to make this vision a reality. Make generalization feel simple, sustainable, and successful by embedding strategies into daily life routines. As we dive into this topic, you were provided with a downloadable guidebook meant for you to fill out along with this course. Take a moment in the free writing space and reflect on what brought you here. Why did you choose this course? What stood out to you within your own practice that pushed for continued education in generalization? What does generalization success mean to you? For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Michaela Smith. I am the founder of Compassionate Training Solutions and an affiliate of Master ABA. I've been a BCBA since 2018, and in that time, I've worked in a variety of environments, all while finding my space in the field of applied behavior analysis. I started in this career working with children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder through insurance-based services, primarily in clinic-based settings. And then I worked through home-based settings. I was also a consultant in school districts with young adolescents and to young adults that had a variety of diagnoses, from autism to intellectual disabilities and more. And now I'm working in adult services, working with individuals that have intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, and mental health diagnoses. Through all of my experience, I have practiced many different service deliveries, but my true passion has always lied with teaching. I love working with new in-season BCBAs to make meaningful and sustainable changes in their practices that will have a positive impact on all those that they serve. My focus is creating a positive ripple effect. If I can improve the lives of our BCBAs, that they can improve lives of their individuals that they serve and their direct care staff, caregivers, and all stakeholders involved. So join me as I share stories from my own experiences, both successes and failures, that help shape the services we provide today and in the future. This course is eligible for CEUs. You must watch the video all the way to the end. There will be a short quiz and survey at the end of this course in the Mission Accomplished lesson. You must complete the required questions in this form to receive your CEU certificate. The survey questions aren't required, but I appreciate your feedback because this helps me improve any courses I'm offering in the future. Your certificate will be emailed to you. Please allow for up to 3 days for it to come, although it should be received immediately. If you do not receive your certificate, please check your spam folder. And if all else fails, you can contact us. If for some reason you miss a step or have any trouble at all, please email us at support@masteraba.com. We're happy to help with anything you may need. Please pay attention to the 3 code words that are embedded within this training. You will need to enter these into the quiz to receive your certificate. How many times have you heard this? He only listens to you. Or maybe you've seen a client use skills perfectly during sessions, but failed to do so with anyone else or any other places. Generalization is essential, not just for skill mastery, but for meaningful, lasting behavior change. And yet, it continues to be one of the most under-supported parts of our intervention planning. Often, we expect parents to implement without the same modeling, prompting, and reinforcement we give our staff and our learners. We assume generalization will happen instead of designing for it. This course shifts that. We're not just going to talk about generalization. We're going to plan for it from the beginning. By embedding learning into everyday routines, we can make generalization the default, not the exception. I want you to take out your guidebook. Take a look at some of the cases in your past. Where were some times where generalization didn't happen? What got in your way? What do you think went wrong? And what do you think you could have helped? Take a minute to jot those down and then follow along with the course. The R.I.S.E framework that is provided within this course is designed as a roadmap to help support parents, guardians, or various stakeholders to successfully generalize skills into their child's daily life. I hope when you walk away, you feel more confident in your approach to prioritize family-centered goals that align with their values, their routines, and all the daily opportunities for practice. You'll learn how to collaborate with parents to identify goals that matter most to their family, all while building buy-in and reducing resistance. You'll embed ABA strategies into everyday routines to create natural opportunities for learning. You'll identify key targets that make the most impact to their daily life. You'll explore how to coach parents to seamlessly integrate skills into tasks they're already doing, like mealtime and playtime, which helps us overcome that dreaded barrier of where's the time? And lastly, you'll develop reinforcement systems for parents to sustain engagement and promote consistency in long-term success. At the end of this course, you'll have actionable strategies, tools, and resources to help parents create lasting change. These objectives aren't just theoretical, they're practical and immediately applicable to your work. Thinking back to those objectives, which one speaks most to you and your need right now, and why? A couple of years ago, I had a client named Julian, and we were center-based services. He was doing amazing. He was able to follow directions. He was using an AAC device and was able to do so independently. He transitioned between activities without having those continuous meltdowns he used to have. And it looked like we cracked the code. At home, completely different story. Mom said it's like he leaves those skills right at the door. He isn't following directions. He's refusing all transitions, and he won't even touch his communication device. My first attempt, trying to send home more data sheets, homework calendars, instructions, practice goals, nothing changed. And that's when I realized that I was trying to make home look like the clinic instead of trying to meet Julian and his family where they already were. So I shifted my focus. I designed and picked out routines they were already doing, like brushing teeth and packing lunch. And I embedded simple skills into each and coached mom in real time. The change didn't happen overnight, but it did happen and it stuck because it wasn't about extra, it was embedded. And that's what this course is all about. I want you to take a second and think about the first thing that comes to mind when you think generalization. For me, I think of all of our clients going home and showing off those skills they worked so hard on all week. I see parents excited for all the growth and basically a fairy tale ended. So, why does generalization fail, even when our training plans can be solid and our data looks great? Well, context can be extremely different. Skills that are taught in a clinic setting might not match cues in reinforcement or the demands of home life. And these skills may be so context dependent that without deliberate teaching, it's not happening. Sometimes even subtle shifts like tone of voice, background noises, materials can all make something feel brand new to the learner. Another area is that parent training often happens in a vacuum. We give instructions, we show examples, but we're not coaching them in the actual environment where the behavior needs to happen or even attempting the same routine and context. Sometimes it's just a lot of talking. Third, often we just track acquisition, our mastery criteria. We don't often track generalization, so we might not even know that this is happening until much later. And last, we often underestimate how hard it is for parents to translate structured plans into the chaotic real life moments. I'm a parent. I work a full-time job. I take care of a household, and I can tell you by the end of the day, I'm beat. It takes all of my brain power to make it through bedtime, and let alone use ABA strategies with my own kids. Our parents are also juggling multiple responsibilities. They have work, childcare, household tasks, and we're adding in that expectation of implementing rigorous ABA strategies that they weren't trained to do. And this feels like just one more thing for them. These roadblocks, they're predictable, but the good news is they're not immovable, they're fixable, and that's where embedded support makes all the difference. The first code word of the session is roadblock. So taking out that guidebook, I want you to look at the why generalization fails checklist. Take a look at your own cases and think about where the breakdown is. Why is generalization not happening? Now, our answer isn't just that simple. And your current challenges with generalization isn't a reflection of your skills as a BCBA. You're not alone. The reality is, most of us weren't trained to build generalization from day one. Generalization can be a complex process that requires many steps that can extend beyond traditional teaching styles, and each child's needs are going to be different. Our supervision emphasizes discrete trial protocols, procedural fidelity, controlled teaching environments, and not to mention, it's very structured. It doesn't really correlate with in-the-moment coaching during messy real life. So let's add to that productivity demands, staffing shortages, turnover, our data systems that prioritize acquisition targets. It's easy to see why our generalization gets pushed to the background. Even when we do train parents, the supports we're given aren't often designed for success. We hand them protocols and hope for the best. We are expecting parents to do this independently without a lot more explicit guidance and support than 1 hour a week parent training sessions. It's pretty unrealistic. This course isn't about piling on more guilt. It's about giving you a new way forward, one that fits real families, real routines, and actual caseloads. So let's stop pretending the problem is you or the parents. It's time to name the real enemies. First up is rigid protocols. You know the ones that are beautifully structured step-by-step plans that fall apart the second a toddler refuses to sit down or a sibling starts screaming. They weren't made for real world. When you create your treatment plans and skill goals, do you think about how the client's going to be using it in practice? How is it going to translate to the home? And does it even make sense? Then we have data sheets that don't match reality. We track compliance or prompts, not fluency across natural settings, and it often doesn't fit the home context. And if it doesn't fit, parents aren't going to use it. And last, we have outdated training models, ones that treat parents like passive implementers instead of the partners. When parents are only told what to do and not supported in the how, when, or why, fidelity drops fast. And overall, the myth that generalization will just happen, it won't. But we can make it happen on purpose, and it starts by designing for reality, not perfection. I want you to take a look at your barrier brainstorm page. In the workbook, you'll find space to throw rocks at those enemies. We're going to break down what gets in the way of generalization for your families and for you. I want you to take a minute and identify 3 top barriers that you face as a BCBA in promoting generalization, as well as 3 top barriers your families are facing. We have begun by focusing on everything that stands in our way to effective generalization. But what's the alternative? It's time to shift from reactive problem solving to proactive planning, from hoping generalization happens to designing for it. I created the R.I.S.E model, which is a 4-step process that helps you embed skill building into real routines that already exist in the family's life. R.I.S.E stands for routines, identifying naturally occurring routines that already happen every day. Interactions, choosing simple, high-value skills that can be taught within these routines. Instead of adding more to parents' already busy schedule, this step focuses on helping parents incorporate skill building into the routines they're already doing, like meal times, play, and outings, prioritizing those teachable moments within the routine. S stands for support, the model coaching aspect of parent training. We're going to reinforce the parent's use of the strategy in the actual context. By demonstrating skills within the context and supporting the parent to do the same via in-the-moment coaching or rehearsal, coaching in context promotes immediate fluency and decreases the training to implementation gap. In the last step, evaluate and evolve, tracking generalization and adjusting plans as routines and families change. The key to continued long-term progress depends not on the in-depth plans we create as behavior analysts, but on the parents feeling successful that leads to the motivation. This step teaches BCBAs how to create systems that reinforce parents' efforts, ensuring long-term engagement. This model isn't about doing more. It's about doing what works, and it works because it fits into how families already live. So bringing it back to routines, the first step. This one's all about meeting families where they are. Before we teach, we listen, and we have to start the conversation, and the conversation can't begin with the assessment. What does a typical day look like for this family? Where are the pain points? Where are those naturally occurring repeated patterns that we can work within? We can focus on prioritizing goals that align with the family's daily routines and their personal values. Think about moments like brushing teeth, getting dressed, cleaning up toys, or packing lunches. Those routines offer predictable cues, built-in reinforcement, and best of all, they're already happening. When we embed skill building into these existing routines, we reduce the burden on the parent and increase the chance of consistency. No flashcards, no scheduling separate practice time, just real learning in real life. If you're not sure where to start, use a routine inventory. Ask, what does your morning look like? And where's your hardest time of day? Often, the best opportunities show up in the messiest moments. This step helps us set up for success for generalization because when learning happens when it actually matters, it sticks. A few years ago, when I first returned back to clinic-based work, I had joined a company that really valued systematic processes. We used the same assessments, same interview protocols, same goal setting structure all across the board. It was organized, clean, and efficient. I began working with a 3-year-old boy who had just recently received his diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. At intake, I completed the VB map and the Brigance with all the intake paperwork and the parent questionnaire. I had plenty of information to create a technically sound treatment plan. His VB map score showed that he was strong in visual perceptual skills and play, and was deficit in verbal operants. We targeted receptive ID and early MANs using PECs. Our goals were clean, measurable, age appropriate, and they looked great on paper. But that didn't matter. For months, we worked hard in the center, but at home, his grandmother, who was his guardian, was struggling. She would often come into parent training sessions overwhelmed and discouraged. She didn't complete homework packets. She described all these heightened behaviors and pretty much regression outside of therapy. It came to the point where she was asking to discontinue services. That's when it hit me. I had worked all this time to create a perfect clinical plan, but I completely missed the mark. I didn't make a connection with the family. We were chasing the skill and not the need. So I asked to set another meeting with her. No data sheets, no lesson plans. I just wanted to listen. I asked her, what's your hardest part of your day? And the magic wand question, if I could change just one thing, what would it be? And she didn't hesitate. Bedtime. All she wanted was for them to get some sleep. So this changed everything. I started shifting our treatment goals to support following routines, building schedules, and working through meaningful transitions, all in natural interactions. We practice sensory strategies and focus on parent coaching on the bedtime routine. Within a few weeks, things began to turn. The progress was real. Grandma looked lighter. She smiled more. She showed up to sessions with energy and questions. And she said to me that this is the first time they felt like someone was helping them and not just checking boxes. This was the moment I truly learned that generalization starts with, and that's connection. When COVID-19 occurred, there was a major shift in service delivery for ABA. I found myself navigating this whole new terrain and basically training parents as RBTs. In one research article, which was called Parents Are People Too, Implementing Empirically Based Strategies During Daily Interactions, Bacati, Peters, and Vollmer addressed these challenges faced by parents and children with autism spectrum disorder through service disruption. The article emphasized the importance of selecting strategies such as environmental enrichment or differential reinforcement of alternative behavior, because they were feasible for parents to implement that didn't add to their stress. We embedded procedures into natural family routines that could reduce the perception of it being an add-on and helped promote fidelity and feasibility. The researchers focused on applying those strategies into 3 different key areas, such as self-care and daily living skills, physical activity, and preferred learning activities. The goal was not to turn the parents into the RBTs, but to help them use ABA naturally during all the time, breakfast, playtime, household chores. By utilizing simple, low-effort ABA strategies that fit seamlessly into existing routines, it helped produce meaningful outcomes for the child without the added stress. I want you to take a look at your workbook. Think about one learner on your caseload who struggles with generalization. What does a typical day look like for that child? What parts of the day repeat consistently, and which ones tend to cause the most stress? Then ask yourself, are we trying to teach those skills in isolation, or can we embed it into something the family already does, like putting on shoes or getting into a car? You don't need a brand new behavior plan. You need to realign your goals with the family's actual life. This is a good time to pause. Use the routine mapping page to sketch out one learner's daily flow. Identify 1 to 2 routines where you might embed a meaningful skill. And when you're done, come back. We'll talk about how to choose the right behaviors to target those in those routines. Now that we've identified routines, it's time to decide what we're actually teaching inside those moments. The second step in the R.I.S.E model is interactions, and it's all about selecting the right micro skill. These aren't just goals pulled from an assessment. They're observable, functional, and relevant to the family's needs. They're short, teachable actions that fit within the routine and not a skill that needs to be added on. Research shows that when parents integrate skill practice into natural activities, they're more likely to follow through and have that achievable long-term success. Think, if we're working on requesting, what about during lunch or snack? What about following directions, maybe when it's time to leave in the morning? Or tolerating a delay when dinner is being made? One of the most common missteps we make is targeting what's missing on the assessment instead of what's missing in the day-to-day. Here's a question I love to ask caregivers. What would make your day just a little bit easier? That's where you'll find the interaction worth teaching. Not the most impressive skill, not the one that might match the assessment, but the most meaningful one. Utilize the downloadable resources included in this training, like the customizable parent questionnaire or the interaction targeting worksheet, to support parents in identifying that breakdown within the routine. So I'm a parent of two wild little girls, and I've been on both sides of this work. When my first daughter was born, I struggled deeply with mental health. I was later diagnosed with ADHD, and all the overstimulation I was experiencing led to pretty heightened meltdowns, and I felt out of control. I was exhausted, I was overwhelmed, and honestly, I felt like I was failing. When I was in therapy, I never forgot some of the lessons she taught me. She said that I was spending my entire life building systems to manage the world, and now those systems weren't working. But she told me, I'm not starting over, I'm just rebuilding. That moment changed everything. I started to reflect on what routines had actually stuck, and I noticed something. The ones that worked weren't brand new, they were ones I'd adapted from. So back before I had therapy, I had this big goal when I went back to work that I was going to wake up at 5 a.m. I was going to work out, prep lunches, our bags, get fully ready for the day, and be super calm. Spoiler alert, I've never gotten up at 5 in my life. I honestly just hit snooze until it was too late. I was scrambled to get out of bed, I was frustrated, kids were crying, and my day was off track. And when I brought this up to the therapist, she asked me why I was building something new. Why won't I build on something that's already working? So I made small shifts. I'm a night person. So at nighttime, when I had a free minute, I prepped bags and lunches. I really wanted to get exercise in, but it's really hard at this age. So I turned family time into exercise. We would go for small walks. I moved my skincare routine into the shower to kind of consolidate. And that's when I realized that these things stuck. It wasn't because I didn't add new things in. It was because I embedded them into what I was already doing. That lesson guides my parent coaching every day. Instead of layering new systems on top of already chaotic schedules, I work with families to find what's already working and embed those interaction goals into the existing systems. It's not about more, it's about better, and better starts with what's already there. The second code word of the day is routines. Let's bring this back to your caseload. Think about one of the routines you identified earlier. Now ask yourself, what's one skill I could embed into this routine that would make it just a little bit easier on the family? Not the most impressive skill and not your next to-do item on the assessment, just the one behavior that would reduce friction, increase independence, and maybe bring a small sense of relief. Maybe it's asking for a break instead of screaming during cleanup. Or maybe it's following one step direction when it's time to leave. If you're not sure where to start, go back to the caregiver's voice. What are they asking for help with? Open your workbook to the interaction targeting worksheet and fill in a few ideas. For each routine, list one meaningful skill that could be coached naturally during that activity. Keep it simple, keep it relevant, because when a skill matters to the family, it's much more likely to stick. Now comes coaching, or what I call support in the R.I.S.E model. This step is about more than just giving instructions. It's about helping caregivers feel successful in the real context, the routine, the chaos, the environment where the behavior actually happens. But here's the reality. We can't always be there. not during bedtime, not during rush school drop off, not when our own kids are at home and dinner's burning on the stove. So this step asks us to get creative, be a little flexible, and figure out how to be collaborative. Maybe you coach in the moment during a telehealth session. Maybe you use video modeling to show them how to respond during a specific routine. Maybe you role play together during a session in the clinic and use their real life scenarios as the setup. Good support isn't always about being present. It's about making the strategy stick even when you're not. Your goal here is to coach in the contact as much as possible, but when that's not feasible, replicate that context through smart, sustainable strategies. And always, always reinforce effort, because parent behavior is behavior too. I was working with this family and they've been struggling for a long time. We were working through asking for help instead of melting down during snack time. In the center, we were pretty successful with this. They were doing it great. There was a picture icon board to request help, and they would independently reach over to it when they needed something that was out of reach or they couldn't open the container. It was a skill I felt was mastered. At home, it wasn't happening. The parents reported that the snack time was chaotic, grabbing, screaming, throwing food. When I reviewed the parent at our parent training sessions, we'd explain the goal, we'd practice in role plays, but as soon as they got home, context changed and the skill fell apart. So I tried something new. I recorded a video of myself modeling the strategy. I sat at a table, held up a container, prompted her to say help, reinforced the request, narrated the whole thing like they were there with me. I sent it to them with a message to watch this before their next mealtime and let me know how it goes. The next day, the response was that this helped more than anything we've tried so far. She said she watched the video every day for a week. And then she said she didn't need it anymore. The best part, when I checked in a month later, she had told me it was one of their calmest routines now. She said it feels like we actually enjoy this time as a family. That's when I realized my job wasn't to be there. My job was to build tools that would work without me. Support isn't about presence. It's about clarity, accessibility, and empowerment. That little video wasn't fancy, but it made success feel possible. Despite what some people might believe, we don't have to be physically present in every routine to offer effective evidence-based support. When COVID occurred, it had transported us into a world of utilizing telehealth practices. In a 2022 study that looked at the impact of telehealth platforms on ABA-based parent training, which was conducted by Ferguson and his team, they found that naturalistic teaching strategies that were delivered via telehealth often led to meaningful increases in caregiver fidelity and, in turn, child outcomes. Caregivers received real-time coaching during their daily routines, from the kitchen to the living room. The key wasn't the platform, it was the contextual fit of the strategy. Something that is even less talked about is utilizing video modeling. In an article by Freeman and Charles Christie, they reviewed the effectiveness of utilizing video modeling in comparison to in vivo modeling for teaching children with autism. This research showed that brief, targeted video models, whether they were created by the clinician or even the caregiver, could significantly improve skill acquisition and generalization. Think about that for our parents who may struggle with remembering procedural steps, or that may benefit from that visual support. This method could help make strategies stick. And finally, and probably our least favorite, is role playing. While it's not a substitute for real context, structured role play lets caregivers practice handling specific situations with coaching and feedback. Whether you simulate a bedtime routine in session or rehearse how to respond to elopement cues, role play bridges that gap between explanation and action. I often like to use this in conjunction with parent recording. So they'll record a specific routine in their daily life, and I'll be able to review it and help cater our role playing to that exact moment. This can help transform outcomes based on real scenarios. These tools are more than just workarounds. They're scalable, family-centered, and proven. And they honor the fact that we as BCBAs have lives and boundaries too. The goal isn't constant presence, it's effective preparation. Now that you've seen the research and the real life examples, it's time to figure out what works best for your families. Think about one family on your caseload. Maybe they've got a solid plan, but follow through is inconsistent. Maybe they're motivated, but overwhelmed. Or maybe the routine is high stress and you simply can't be there to coach it live. What kind of support would serve them best right now? Would a short, clear video model help them remember the key steps? Could you role play a tricky routine with them during your next session to build confidence? Or maybe it's time to explore telehealth coaching, where you guide them during the actual routine in real time. Open your workbook to the Coaching Strategy Planner and choose one real routine and one real skill. Then plan your support. What will you do to help the parent succeed, even when you're not there? The last step in the RISE model is evaluate and evolve, and it's one of the most important. Because here's the truth. If you're not tracking generalization, you're just guessing. We put so much effort into building plans, choosing routines, coaching parents, but we often stop tracking once the child masters the skill in a structured session. We assume that's enough, but generalization is not a box to check. It's a process to continually monitor. Evaluation here doesn't mean more data sheets. It means capturing the right information in the right way. Are the skills showing up at home, in other routines with other people? Are caregivers utilizing the strategies consistently? Do they feel confident? Or are they white knuckling it through? And maybe most importantly, are the supports we gave them still working? If not, we adapt. We evolve. This stuff helps us stay responsive, not reactive. It's how we build sustainability and not just skill acquisition. I was working with a family who started out incredibly strong. The parent was engaged, consistent. They really bought into the plan. We were targeting functional communication during transitions, specifically helping the child request a break instead of engaging in escape maintain behaviors. At first, things were going great. The parents followed the prompting plan beautifully. They used the visuals, they practiced transitions with intention. We saw real meaningful progress, and our data showed it. So naturally, we lightened support. We assumed maintenance was happening. But about 6 weeks later, during a check-in, I noticed something. The parents seemed unsure. She mentioned that transitions had been harder lately. And when I asked about the visuals and prompting, she paused and said, I've kind of fallen off with that. I thought maybe we didn't need it anymore. There wasn't a big crisis. There wasn't a new routine. This wasn't a failure. It was drift. Life got busy. Old habits crept back in, and without continual reinforcement or feedback, the new behavior, our parents' behavior, started to fade. And that's when I realized I had stopped evaluating. I had assumed success meant permanence. So we reconnected. We reviewed what had worked, talked through what slipped, and made a lightweight plan to get back on track. A few weeks later, the parent said, thanks for not making me feel like I failed when I just needed a reset. And that's the lesson. Support isn't about teaching the skill. It's about circling back. Evaluating and evolving isn't about extra steps. It's how we make change sustainable. In one of our most recent studies for this step comes from Gunderson and colleagues' 2021 article about fidelity and effectiveness of a caregiver-mediated interventions for children with autism spectrum disorder. They evaluated caregiver fidelity across baseline, intervention, and post-intervention phases for families implementing behavior analytic procedures. The results of the study showed that caregiver fidelity increased during active coaching, but without continued feedback, fidelity dropped significantly. In other words, even when parents know what to do and have been successful in short term, implementation tends to fade without ongoing support and touch points. This reinforces something we've seen in practice. Parental drift isn't about unwillingness. It's about the cognitive load, burnout, and just life getting in the way. The takeaway, if we want generalization to last, we need to build in periodic check-ins, not just for data collection, but for recalibration. Evaluate not just the child's skill performance, but the caregiver's experience, and evolve the plan as their needs evolve. Now it's your turn to apply what we've learned. Think about a case where the caregiver had strong initial implementation. Maybe you faded coaching. Maybe the data looks solid. Maybe things seem done. But what's happening now? Use this moment to reflect, not just on the child's progress, but the caregiver's journey. Has there been a drift? Have routines changed? Have feedback and support decreased? Open your workbook to the generalization and fidelity tracker and walk through one case where you can evaluate and evolve your current support. The goal isn't to find failure, it's to stay responsive. As the research reminds us, success during intervention doesn't guarantee sustainability after. So let's design for maintenance, not just mastery. Now you've made it through all 4 steps of the R.I.S.E model, and now it's time to see how they work together. Think of it like this. Routines are our setting, the natural repeated moments where learning already wants to happen. Interactions are opportunities, the skills we choose to embed that make life a little easier for everyone involved. Support is the engine, how we coach, model, and reinforce parent implementation in a way that sticks. And evaluate and evolve is the maintenance plan. It's how we check in, catch drift, and adapt so that the progress becomes sustainable. Each step builds on the next. Each one supports the others. And together, they give us a realistic, flexible, and powerful way to make generalization not just possible, but probable. This method isn't about doing more. It's about doing it better. With the real family routines in mind, their real needs, and our real capacity in mind. Rewind that back to a little bit. Okay. This model isn't about doing more. It's about doing it better. With the real family's routines, needs, and capacity in mind. I'm going to take a look at one of my families that I worked with using the R.I.S.E model. Maya was a 6-year-old autistic child. No, go back. Taking a look at one of my clients, Maya, who was a 6-year-old diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. I was one of the first ones that I've used the R.I.S.E model with. I was working with her in a center-based program. She was bright, she loved sensory play, and had made strong gains in labeling and following directions. But at home, her parents were still struggling, especially with transitions. So I started with routines. I asked her parents to walk me through their evening, and one moment stood out immediately: getting in the bath. Every night was a battle: crying, runaway, refusal, and every night ended in frustration. So I moved on to interactions. What skill would actually help in that moment? We decided on a simple verbal prompt: time for bath, paired with a transition visual. The goal wasn't compliance, it was predictability, a way for Maya to prepare and follow through. For support, I knew I couldn't be there at 7 p.m., and neither could anyone else on my team. So I coached her mom during session. We role-played. Her mom had recorded videos of the transitions across a few different days, and we reviewed them during our sessions. I began identifying breakdowns in the routines, and we were able to role-play the solution. We also practiced in the clinic, presenting transitions in the same way. We had a simple verbal prompt that was paired with a transition visual. Once we were practicing this, we would videotape the process and show it to mom so she could replicate what the behavior techs were doing. And for evaluate and evolve, I followed up weekly at first. We tracked how often Maya used the supports, how hard the transition felt on a 1 to 5 scale, and how confident mom felt using the strategy. Around week 3, things dipped. They had house guests, the routines got messy, and mom just forgot to use the visual. We adjusted, we revisited the plan, and within a few days, things settled again. After about a month, Maya was following through with bath time with no extra prompting. And her mom said something I'll never forget. She said this was the first time a strategy worked for both of us. And that's what happens when we design for generalization, not just acquisition. It stuck because it fit. And the third code word of the day is evolve. Now that you've walked through each step of the R.I.S E model, it's time to apply it to someone you're actively supporting. Choose one client or family, someone who's struggling with generalization, or where you know the plan could be more sustainable. Open your workbook to the My First R.I.S E plan template. You'll start by identifying one routine that's already happening every day, and then choose a micro skill that would bring value in that moment. Plan your support strategy. Will you be modeling, role playing, using video or coaching? And then last, map it out. How are you going to track generalization and parent fidelity over time? Don't aim for perfect, aim for practical. Pick something you can implement this week. The R.I.S E model is meant to be used, not admired. The sooner you apply it, the sooner you'll start to see real generalization because it's been built into the process from the start. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure you've got everything you need to take the R.I.S E model into your work this week. First, don't forget to download your course workbook. It included every planning tool we covered today, plus templates for extra visual supports, coaching prompts, and fidelity checklists. I've also linked the open access research articles that we referenced throughout this course so that you can explore the science behind this approach in more depth. And here's the part I really want to encourage you. Share your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let me know. What's one routine you're planning to target first? Which R.I.S E step feels easiest for you and which one feels the hardest? Or just share what resonated most within this course. We grow by reflecting together, and your insights might be exactly what another BCBA needs to hear. Thank you for being here and doing work that changes lives, not just for our learners, but for their families. And remember, even with a solid framework like R.I.S E, challenges will keep showing up. Parents will get overwhelmed, routines will fall apart, and you'll struggle to find time to coach the way you want to. But here's your reminder. Those barriers aren't your fault, and they're not the family's fault either. They're the product of broken systems, unrealistic expectations, and models that were never designed with sustainability in mind. You're here to do it differently. So when those barriers show up, and they will, don't freeze. Don't blame. Adapt, simplify, encourage, and repeat. How can you get some more information? Well, feel free to answer. Well, let's go over. For more information or to answer any questions that you may have, feel free to email me at msmith@compassionatetrainingsolutions.com or add a comment below to help connect with others. For any technical support, please contact support@masteraba.com. If you're looking for more information, take out your phone and scan the QR code, which will bring you directly to my website. There you will find various resources, blog posts, and access to other courses that I've done. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at the handle Compassionate Training Solutions. And that wraps it up for today. I hope you walk away with the tools you need to elevate your parent training sessions for more meaningful and engaging progress. If you're watching this for CEUs, you will need to complete the quiz for this course in the Mission Accomplished lesson. You will need to enter your BCBA number along with the 3 code words that were in this session. There is a brief survey in that form. Please take a minute to complete it and let me know what you thought of this course. It'll help me improve all future courses that I offer. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you in the comments.